What's going on there, ladies and gentlemen? Luke Innes here with another movie review. Now, YouTube is probably awash with people praising the shit out of the movie I'm going to be talking about today. And I'm about to join the chorus. I know I'm probably preaching to the choir, so to speak, given that most people seem to love this film. And I mean, I'm one of them as well. I'm not going to lie to you. The movie I'm talking about today is the classic horror comedy An American Werewolf in London. So the movie was of course written and directed by John Landis. It stars David Norton and the wonderful Jenny Agutter. So the film starts off following David and Jack, a pair of American backpackers who are spending 3 months in Europe. They're basically hiking through the Yorkshire moors, and after a slightly suspicious encounter with some locals in a pub, they are attacked by a ferocious animal, it would appear. Jack is killed and David severely injured, and after some time passes he wakes up in a hospital in London, very far away from where the attack happened. One of the nurses at the hospital, Alex, played by Jenny Agutter, falls for David somewhat, and David reciprocates these feelings. The pair begin a relationship, but David is haunted by hallucinations of Jack, telling him that a werewolf's curse is upon him, and on the next full moon he will transform into a werewolf. And the souls of those he kills will not reach rest until the bloodline of the werewolf is no more. David must kill himself to prevent the agony of the undead. So where do I start with American Werewolf in London? I mean, it's all been said before. Let's put it out there. The acting is brilliant. Everyone in this movie does a stellar job, really everyone. And on that note as well, if you're English like me, or British in general, there are a lot of faces that you will recognise in this movie. You know, for instance, Rick Mayall plays a bit part in the movie, you know, a role with no lines. He's one of the locals in the pub. I've got to say, Jenny Agutter is just fantastic. What an amazing actress. I mean, she's my sort of woman, you know, to look at, of course. And at the same time, she's just such a great presence on screen, and that's no different here. She plays her character Alex Price superbly. Moving on from that, the effects. Let's talk about the effects. Even if you take out of the picture the werewolf transformation scene and just talk about the kind of prosthetic makeup effects relating to the gore, brilliant, fantastic. You know, the first time Jack visits David in the hospital, in his hallucination, I mean, that's just superb. It's one of those effects, you know, he's got the slashes going down his face and into his neck, and it's kind of got that thing of, it's a lot like in George Romero's Day of the Dead. There's a lot of effects where you just think, how'd they do that, man? That looks superb. You know, the way it genuinely looks like there are parts of his neck that are like missing. It's brilliant. And I mean, moving on, of course, to the iconic werewolf transformation scene. Superb. It's again, it's like, how did they do that? And it's a lot like John Carpenter's The Thing, in that there's so many amazing practical monster effects that just, it's like, man, how did they do that, man? Like you know, that there's a magic to it that you don't get even with the best of CGI, you know. And you know, a lot of you guys who watch my videos regularly probably know that I'm not a big fan of CGI. I much prefer practical effects. And I mean, this for me is just testament to why they're so much better than CGI, because, you know, a CGI werewolf transformation, yeah, it can look pretty good, but you always sort of, there's no romance or mystery about it, you know. And that's not me saying that it's not skilled. CGI is an art as much as anything else, but there's no mystery about it, is the thing that kind of bugs me out about CGI. A lot is made of the kind of black comedy element of this movie, and rightly so, because it's very different from most horror comedies. Generally with horror comedy, what you get is kind of very slapstick, kind of bold, outrageous comedy, you know, say something like Return of the Living Dead, or you know, say like Brain Dead or something like that. And that's fine, and there's definitely a place for that, but American Werewolf in London really stands apart because it goes for a more kind of gentle, subtle approach. A lot of the comedy in American Werewolf in London is drawn from pulling out of the situation and thinking, hang on, this is very, very odd, you know. It's very much kind of a comedy of, you know, the punchline comes when you actually take a step back from the film, you know. Although it does subvert that at times, you know. Obviously there's the scene where David is trying to make his way back to Alex's flat, and he's having to wander through Westminster naked after waking up at the zoo, and that's all quite kind of slapstick and very physical comedy and cartoonish. And this is a sort of criticism of the film, I guess, because that does feel out of place. Although I've got to say, there really isn't any other way you could have done that. You couldn't have played that in a particularly subtle way, having a guy having to make his way home through London naked, you know, stealing some balloons and a lady's coat. I will tell you, my favourite scene in the whole movie is where David is transformed into the werewolf and he kills the guy in Tottenham Court Road tube station. For some reason, and you know, you'll probably know this if you've seen my Creep review, I really love it when stuff like the tube is kind of used to the advantage that it can be used in films. Same with the subway in New York, or any sort of underground train system. I really love it when things like that are used in movies. I think that it's a great setting, and it's really no exception here. You know, the echoiness of the platform and all of that sort of thing. And then the guy obviously starts wandering through the station, and when he spots the werewolf, David, you never see that. You see him spot it. You get a few POV shots, and obviously he, you know, turns to run and all of that, and it's really cool the way it's done. You see a couple of shots of him, you know, running and looking over his shoulder, and some from the front, and you never see the werewolf at all for that section until he gets to the escalator. He falls on the escalator, he's rising up the escalator, and you see the werewolf properly in the distance, just approaching the escalator. It's a fantastic scene. It's really, really brilliant. You don't see the death or anything like that. You just see this very simple build up to it. And there's no music or anything. It's a really hypnotic scene, and it's brilliantly done on all fronts. I think that scene is fantastic. I really do. So to try and summarise it, this is one of the best horror comedies of all time, although it doesn't really fit with other horror comedies. Like I say, it's only really a comedy, aside from that one little scene. When you sort of pull away and look at it sort of on, you know, from kind of a slightly different perspective, for the most part, it's a very funny movie. It's a scary movie. It's got great effects. It's brilliantly acted. It's a great story. I highly recommend An American Werewolf in London, although I'm, preaching to the choir, because I know that pretty much everyone has seen this movie and likes it just as much as I do. Of course I've got to give An American Werewolf in London a 9 out of 10. It's just that good. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Luke Innes. I hope to see you again very soon when I do my next horror movie review. In the meantime, why don't you go down into the description and check out my podcast. It's called Ironcast. It's all about music. We've covered all sorts of music, so you're bound to find something there that you like. If you feel like being extra awesome, why not check out my Amazon wishlist and pick out something that you'd like to see me review. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you again very soon.